Hello to anyone who stumbles upon this channel. My name is Rai, and welcome to my first video. For my first video, I will be getting into a hobby that I've been wanting to get into for a few months now, and that hobby is beekeeping. I've been wanting to keep bees for a while now, after I heard that you can grow a spiritual connection with bees by playing music for them, specifically jazz music. And that was really interesting to me, so I'll be raising some bees of my own. I already have all the equipment I need. I've been doing some research, and before I get the bees, I will do a complete walkthrough of all the equipment. First off, the harvesting tools. There's this comb rake looking thing with sharp nails at the end of it, which is called an uncapping tool. And you would use this once you have a full slab of honey. It would have a thin layer of wax at the top of it. You would use this to scrape the wax off to expose the honey. And only once you scrape the wax off and expose the honey, you can collect the honey. Also, there's this crowbar looking thing, which you would use this to separate the slabs within the hive box. And I think you use this chisel end if there's because I think they seal together kind of with pollen and all that type of stuff. You would use this as a chisel and kind of, chisel it to break them apart. So yeah, these are the harvesting tools. Next is this tool called a bee brush. You would use these when you're removing the honey slabs from the box. So what you would do is you would brush the bees off of the comb back into the hive, because when you bring them inside of your house to extract the honey, you wouldn't want to carry any bees in with you. And you can't extract the honey outside because then there'd probably be a lot of debris and dirt, bugs and that kind of stuff getting all over your honey, and that'd be nasty. So you would want to do it inside, and you would brush the bees off with this before you bring your slabs in to make sure that the bees get off of it. I have this really interesting tool called a bee feeder, which you would use to feed the bees. You stick this long end into the hive. You would, right here, in these little grooves, you would screw a water bottle, or just a plastic water bottle. But before that, you would fill it with sugar and water. It would be a 1-to-1 ratio. And then you would stick it into your beehive and use it to feed the bees. It's pretty interesting to me. I don't know why. The coolest tool, in my opinion, is this smoker. So how it works is there's this bellow. It's just like a fireplace bellow. You would squeeze it. There's this little hole at the bottom right here. It's the only exit for air. The rest, it's airtight sealed. So it would force air out of this hole and into this hole where the canister is. And I'm going to take the lid off. So you would put pine needles or leaves, dried leaves, in this canister. Then you would light it, close the lid back on, and then you would squeeze this bellow a little bit. It would blow onto the fire and produce smoke. And the smoke, since air is coming in through here, it has nowhere else to escape except out of this little spout. So air would escape out of the spout, and you would have it pointed at the beehive and shoot the bees before you open the hive to calm them down. And also there's this filter that you would put on the canister before you close the lid. This is a safety measure so that no flaming leaves or embers would force up from the air and out of the spout. That could be a fire hazard. So you would put this on. It keeps any flaming leaves or embers from coming out, and the little holes only allow smoke to pass through. And if I needed to store it, I have this little clip. I'm not gonna put it on right now just because it's hard to do while holding the camera in one hand. But what I would do is I would squeeze the bellows together and put the clip on, and it would hold the bellow together so it wouldn't extend back out, which makes it easier to store. So that was pretty much all of the tools. I'll show you the bee box, but first I wanted to show you my frogs. Is this bright green one and this dark purplish color one. They're tree frogs. I think they're Australian tree frogs, so they were from Australia. These ones probably didn't come from Australia, but their ancestors did. And I wanted to show you me feeding him. This is the more active one. As you can see, he's climbing the wall. This one just sits around. But yeah, anyways, I'll show you me feeding him. Okay, remove the lid. Okay, I got this cricket. Gonna feed him. Boom. Just thought it would be a neat thing to show you. Anyways, this is the hive box. This is where the bees would be living. How I'm gonna go about showing you is I'm going to deconstruct it part by part and go over each part individually. So first we have this top cover, which is pretty much the roof of the whole beehive. It has this aluminum, I think it's aluminum sheet nailed to it so that it would be weatherproof and rainproof. And this is gonna offer a lot of protection for the bees. And for added protection, I might put some sort of wax on the wood later on. But for now, I'm probably just gonna see how it does with the metal roof. Next is the inner cover. To be honest, I'm not sure why this is necessary. It seems like it could just be the outer cover with the metal sheet on top of the hive. But yeah, it has this inner cover. I'm not sure what purpose it serves. Next is the queen excluder. This is like a strainer. It allows the worker bees to go through these little slots, but the queen cannot get through the slot. The slots are too small for the queen to get through, but just the right size for the worker bees. The reason why you would use this is so that the queen bee can't get up into the honey box that you're extracting from and lay her eggs in there, because then you'd have some larvae honey, and that sounds strange. Next are these honey slabs. There's 10 of them. I don't think they're called honey slabs, but that's what I've been calling them. I have this grabber tool that I'm gonna grab one of them with. So you would grab them like that, pull it out, and they have the hexagon bee shape pattern, the bee comb pattern on them. This is where the bees would make their honey on. And I would scrape it, not from the bottom box, because that's for the bees. I would stack multiple boxes, and I would take honey from the top box, because the bees would need the bottom box for themselves. Put it back in. There. Later on, I'll show you, I don't have all of these assembled, and for all the boxes, I have 3 boxes in total. So later I'll show you me assembling one of these. Next is the bee box. This is what holds the honey slabs. So what you would do with this is you would take each side and you would kind of wedge them together like a puzzle. And then they're pretty tight when you just wedge them together, but for added reinforcement, I added nails. It's pretty interesting. It reminds me of in Japan. They don't use nails for their houses. They use like these wedges, these puzzle-shaped wedges, and then they just wedge the different posts together to form a house. They call it the nailless houses. And it reminds me of this. They also have these handles carved into them for when you want to transfer the bee box. This is where the bees would exit. There's this piece of wood that you would put into this whole exit area to limit the exit port to just this little slot. And I think that is so that it could be kind of keep in heat, like an igloo. You know, the igloos don't have a large opening. It's kind of a dome with a little opening. I think it's the same concept as an igloo. And then there's this even smaller exit point, which this might be used during winter, I would think. I still have to do some more research, but I think this would be used during winter since it's smaller for less openings. And it would slide in like that. This is what it looks like when it's slid in. At the very bottom, this is the bottom board. This is the flooring for the bees so that they're just not on top of dirt. I removed a few of the slabs so you could see what the bottom board looks like with the bee box on top of it. Also, I think this is where I would put the bee feeder. I would slide it into the exit point, and then it would kind of rest on the bottom board right here. And as far as I know, that's pretty much the complete beehive. Here's a diagram of the complete beehive. So it goes bottom board, deep box, queen excluder. So you would only extract above the queen excluder. Below the queen excluder is a no-no. That's for the bees to survive on their own during the winter and just in general. So after the queen excluder, it goes medium box. That's the box you would extract the honey for yourself from. Then inner cover, outer cover. And that's the whole beehive. I'm getting ready to wrap up the video, but the last thing I want to show you is the location of where the hive will be. So I have these 4 cinder blocks stacked on top of each other. It's probably about maybe 1.5 feet. And I'm gonna put the beehive on top of these cinder blocks to keep the hive out of the rain and keep it off the ground from bugs and that kind of stuff. This area floods pretty bad, so the cinder blocks should keep it out of any flood waters. So that was pretty much everything I wanted to show you. I decided I'm going to make a follow-up video of me getting the bees and installing them in their new hive. And rather than me making 2 different videos on separate days and pasting them together in one video, I decided I'm going to make a part 1 and part 2. And as for further content, I love doing exploring and that kind of stuff, so you could expect a lot of those types of videos, especially historic related stuff like missions, battlegrounds, prehistoric sites, that type of thing. But I also like doing urban exploration as well, just not as much. Metal detecting is also a hobby of mine. I'm going to try to make some metal detecting videos in the future. And hopefully stay tuned. Thanks.